Welcome everybody to Rad Pod and Chill. This is the recap of episode 86 with Jason Stanley. I'm Heidi Kuda. I'm here with High Fidelity and Jim Stewartson. We got a lot of terrain to cover, so while I take care of a couple little admin items, why don't you guys jump in?
The Supreme Court is corrupted. Okay, that's all.
All right, and
Oh, is there
Jim,
more to it?
Jim.
Well, I mean, that's a good. Might as well fucking start there. I mean, the thing and I wrote about this is there's just this failure of imagination, right?
Yeah.
It's just and I may come back to this point. People just keep like being shocked and amazed, like these pundits on TV, right? They're like, no, the Supreme Court, I'll take it up and they'll dismiss it because it's just so ridiculous. It's like, what are you smoking? People.
Yeah.
And it goes back to this thing I keep harping on, which is when you don't know it's a war, you keep referring back to the system that it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
If no one tells you that it's not fucking politics anymore, if no one tells you in authority that the Supreme Court is just a corrupt oligarch fucking stenographer organ at this point, if you're not extremely online and extremely, able to distinguish fact from fiction, you're kind of fucked,
Yeah.
And that's the problem with not telling people who the enemy is, not telling people what the problem is. And I think the good news is with some of the more recent developments and the whole thing basically just dropping trowel, like, we like Putin, fuck you, right? I mean, it's like, I think there is certainly some interesting movement in terms of the general perception, right?
Yeah.
I was hearing, like, suddenly on my TV, I was hearing, hey, that whole thing about Russia? Maybe that was maybe they were trying to work us. Maybe that was just them bullshitting around what was really a problem. And sadly, it's taken 8 fucking years to get to this point. But at least the first order of reality has been breached, which is we got a fucking problem. No,
we have lots of problems.
Yeah, well, Jim has been.
There's one in particular I'm referring to, which is because the tell, if anybody fucking needed a tell, was when they got everything they wanted on the border, all of it.
Yeah.
They were like, we gotta fix the border, and Biden was like, okay, here's all your shit plus some other shit that you didn't ask for that you'll like even more. And they were like, no, because you're going to give money to Ukraine. Which is, it's an asinine position. Zero of the people who come up to me and go, Ukraine flag and bio, disregard opinion, Zero of those people had any fucking idea it was a country, much less where it was on a map, much less having an opinion about how we should assist our pre-NATO allies, right?
Right.
I mean, anywho, generally speaking, there's just been a big sort of dumb blanket over a lot of subjects that hopefully we're going to get to start dusting off.
Can we talk about the piece of crap who is the number one reason standing in the way of aid to Ukraine, Mr. Mike Johnson? Heidi, take it away.
Well, I was going to say, as you guys know, I've been on the Mike Johnson beat, and I've noticed that he's all Willie Horton all day long. All he does is scaremonger about immigrants coming across the border, and it made me think of two things: either uh, they don't they don't have a good script writer for him.
You guys sound like robots. I'm gonna drop out and come back.
Okay, I'll save some of this for Jim, but because I would love Jim's opinion on this. When you have to go back to like the most obvious scaremongering fear tactics, when we've actually offered solutions to their so-called problem, it tells me one of two things. Either they're going to get rid of this guy because they're not even giving him their top script writers, or literally he's got no cover. I mean, he's literally trying to distract from the fact that he's trying to hand Ukraine to Russia.
Sorry, I dropped out. Who's trying to hand Ukraine to Russia? They're all
Mike
trying
Johnson.
to hand Ukraine to Russia.
Mike Johnson specifically, as he's.
You know what? Actually, let's watch a video from Jason Stanley because he talks about it.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
The enemies of the United States couldn't have wanted anything more than Mike Johnson and Donald Trump. So it's astounding. Ukraine is fighting. Ukraine is fighting against a clearly fascist empire that Mike Johnson is threatening to just completely needlessly kowtow to. So to hand them the country of Ukraine. Ukrainian soldiers are willing to fight and die en masse to fight Russia. They just need weapons. They're not asking for anyone to fight for them. So they've been fighting for 2 years. But, Mike Johnson single-handedly might be responsible for the murder of hundreds of thousands of people, for the complete destruction of Ukrainian culture and language, torture camps, mass rape. We know what Russia does when it invades a city, when it attacks a city. You want to see that happen to Kyiv? So single-handedly responsible for that much bloodshed and destruction. It's a lot to weigh on his conscience, and I suspect he doesn't have one.
Shit. I mean,
how do you follow that up?
The one thing I will say about Mike Johnson is that I think, like an Amy Coney Barrett, he's actually driven by his religious, or what he thinks are his religious things. I think he didn't really understand how important it was to be fully anti-Ukraine until he got into the position and started hearing it from the powers that be, that this is the fucking bright line. We don't care about any of that other shit, buddy. It really seemed to me that there was a transformation in the guy, and I think that's because the people who really control him, the people at the New Apostolic Reformation and the other dominionist cults that he's part of, and that's what they are. They basically said, hey, you gotta follow the boss, because God told you. Because that guy is genuinely broke, right? Broken. Like, he has no identity of his own. He's got no bank account. He's got none of that. He is obviously a gay man who went into conversion therapy, and not only went into conversion therapy, but married his conversion therapist. And got into a covenant marriage with her, which means that, you can't get divorced or any of that. And, I'm pretty sure it means there's no such thing as rape in the marriage, shit like that. So I think that guy is like Amy, where he's controlled through his religion as opposed to being some kind of direct puppet.
Whatever it is.
A long way of saying unwitting.
whatever it is that drives him. He was on a board with Jordan Peterson. He had Tony Perkins on his board, funded into office by Robert Mercer, funded into office by
Absolutely.
Russian oligarchs who were funding Maria Butina. It is the most cynical creation. So whether or not there's some mice, whether or not he's a true believer, whether or not he does or he does not have a conscience, as Jason Stanley said, this is a man who potentially will have hundreds and thousands of murders that could have been prevented on his hands. So whatever it is that's driving him, it's about what we do. Are we just going to sit there and go, oh, everything's fine to have this guy calling that shot? I don't think so.
No, there's nothing fine about any of it. The reason why I think sometimes it's important to understand where are they winning? Are they unwitting? Where are they on mice? Is because in order to to apply leverage and to do things like actually affect things, even if it's just like kind of knowing what the right pressure point is to tweet about it or whatever your little part is, right? I think it's important to sometimes understand that sometimes these people are just fucking cult members who get put in these positions, and it doesn't take away any guilt from them. It doesn't mean that they are less guilty, that they are less sociopathic, that they are not less grifters and deadly in this case. Deadly to our fucking friends in this case. But I think it's useful in thinking about, okay, what are the right pressure points? Because pressuring this guy on his religion, is not going to bear fruit. Or it might if you could find a way into what actually drives him as opposed to what he's doing because his new pals in the government are telling him to do. That make sense?
Yes, it does. And what Jason Stanley, who for those who don't know, he's been on our show before. He authored How Fascism Works. He has another very important book that he just published a few months ago, The Language of the Politics of Language. Very, very important. He has another one coming out in September that we'll discuss in a minute. But what it's very clear to me that Jason explained to us is that what Johnson and his ilk are aiming for is the complete destruction of the United States as an international power. And so it's what we do with that information. And one of the themes that we discussed, which was also very important, is how we need to reclaim the working class from this cult. I dare say that Johnson may be a perfect example of a cult member. He absolutely checks all the boxes. Why I'm hammering in on him is because he does have those weak links and those Achilles heel, which I'm poking around to find. And as Hi-Fi and I, kind of crafted language around him as a mild-mannered domestic terrorist, I think that language is important because he's running around trying to fearmonger about immigrants coming across the border while he offers no solutions. He's absolutely part of this MAGA cult, and we're just going to keep on, as you said, poking and really pushing people to decide what we're going to do, because it's about what we do. And I think the worst thing that we can do is continually be so surprised when this criminal gang does criminal things. Like by now, like, do not be surprised. That weakens us, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it's a blind spot. Again, it's the way I think of it is, right. If like anybody given time and quiet space, and can be imaginative, right? Can think of things. But when there's explosions going off around you, right? Try and write a fucking book or make a film or do anything. And it's a similar thing with the basic attention span of humans. The news cycle is so fucking fast, and it's just so full of horrific shit that we end up. And I had a phrase that I made up that I kind of like to see if I can remember. I am high because it's a live stream, so
It's Rad Pod and Chill.
I have to go.
So I did tell everybody that we were going to be
here it is.
Punk and Drublic, so I expect us to be Punk and Drublic.
Is what we do.
Ready?
A great NoFX tribute to NoFX.
All right. So when they're flooding the zone with shit, the key is to focus on the people holding the fire hose, not what's coming out of it.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, because we end up just like this, and there's no fucking way to process that. It's like, the old expression, drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
You especially don't want to do that if the fire hose is delivering torrents of shit.
Right.
So what you want to do instead is look around the fire and look at the people holding the fucking hoses. Who are doing it? Who are the ones, like, flooding the zone? And that's where you need to focus, in my opinion, because if you can stop flooding the zone with shit, people can wake up. They can get their bearings back, their attention back, and be able to see some of this shit what's right in front of them. Let their imagination back into power, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. I got so much more to say about Jason Stanley's interview. It relates to everything that we've been discussing. Do you want to show a clip or hi-fis or something on your mind?
Let's show another Jason Stanley clip. Let's see. How about this one? We see these operations across our country, across the globe. We see the farmers in Poland dumping Ukrainian grain, except they're all flying Russian flags and have signs in Russian. Is this a class war?
Well, fascism is sometimes described from in certain political traditions as oligarchical, finance capital backed nationalism to trick the working class. And that's classically what we're seeing. We're seeing the billionaire class fund fascism using homophobia, racism, patriarchy to create what one headline called the Rainbow Coalition of Hate. So it's going to be a multicultural, multiracial movement that is where you have white supremacists, anti-Semites, sexists, homophobes. You're going to draw in the Christian right because they're drawn in by the anti-LGBT stuff and the anti-abortion line. This is familiar from the past. Plenty of people who wouldn't self-describe as fascist, plenty of people who wouldn't describe themselves as white supremacists. They're anti-trans. They're not white supremacists. They're
the foot soldiers of hate.
The foot soldiers of hate. And each group has its own target that they hate. Muslims, immigrants, So we're going to have black Trump supporters who don't like immigrants or Muslims or LGBT. We're going to have white Trump supporters who like his macho posturing and domination of Black Americans. We're going to have a lot of men who like to see someone who's been accused multiple times of sexual assault and gets away with it. Someone who we're going to have religious conservatives who like the stacking of the Supreme Court with far right justices who seek to ever constrain women's rights. So this is the situation, and it's all funded by billionaires who want to get rid of regulations so they can plunder the earth and survive climate change in their giant bunkers in Hawaii.
You know what? Speaking of billionaires, that reminds
Oh, hi. Thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
Excellent.
I
That was excellent.
well done. Well, 10 out of 10. I love Jason Stanley. I'm so happy that he came on our show. I'm so grateful that he took time. He's a busy guy, and I'll be, like I did off our last interview, I'll be feasting off this interview for months, because he just gives so much good information. We did ask him what it's like not being on Twitter. He dumped out the day after Musk bought it and didn't look back. And, you know, in that time, he's written 2 books, one that he was working on for 8 years. He said that he was always a speed reader, but he found that it was affecting his cognition. But more than anything, he was targeted by many of the same people that target you, Jim, and target us. And psychologically, he is healthier, and he's very, very productive. And he says, get off Twitter if you can. And, you know, I got the line, thank you for not smoking Twitter. But I did get a chance to I was able to tell him that I do miss his World Cup coverage, because I think he knew less about soccer than me. So he was like a comedian every time he was covering it. He didn't know what the hell he was talking about, and that was the joke. And I missed that. That was the good part of Twitter. As we know, we are now into the, as Jim said, you know, when this happened, I don't know, it's almost been 2 years that we're behind enemy lines, and sure as shit, here we are. And nevertheless, you know, we're fighting the information war, and we're fighting it where it's happening. So it's a key battleground.
I want to say just something about what Jason said about oligarchs. It struck me that what is happening in very simple terms is that oligarchs figured out that to sell a country for parts, it's easier if you split it up first, right? That's literally what they're doing. I mean, it's to the point now where I listen to, you know, Eric Prince and Mike Flynn and these guys talking about the country, and they're like, we have so many resources. We have all of this precious metals and oil in the ground and shit, you know, and it's like, what? That's not yours.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like, and you know, it's the same thing. If anyone heard Eric Prince talking about Africa last week, where he said, you know, he said, oh yeah, we should just fucking take it over because they don't know what they're doing, right? And the guy was like, sounds like they're gonna accuse you of being a colonialist. He was like, goddamn right.
Mm-hmm.
It was like,
yeah.
Oh. I mean, that is what they are. That is what these people are. They are oligarchs. It's not about religion for these guys. Even though Eric Prince is, you know, a Knight of Malta and fucking thinks he's still fighting the Crusades and goes through all this fucking like religious shit. At the end of the day, it's just about him being powerful and being able to dominate other people.
And that actually is very much part of the Dominion strain too. That Dominion, we have Dominion over Earth, so they justify it. However they want to. I just got back from Sonoma County. I saw a screening of God and Country, like Bad Faith. It's very important. Please go to godandcountrydocumentary.com. That's Rob Reiner's, the film that he produced with Michelle Reiner. It's very, very important. And, you know, like Bad Faith, it shows that this religious extremism that's infecting our body politic is actually rooted in a history of racism. These guys who did not want school integration, who then founded their own private schools and then were forced to integrate those schools. They knew that that was not going to be a winning message. So you had people like fucker with the moral majority coming out and, you know, raging against abortion. And that has been this long game that they've been playing. And here we are. And again, when you see these shocking moves, or moves that would have been shocking a few years ago, it shouldn't be shocking now. Just know that it's all very cynical. They don't have the votes, so they have to do all this crap. One thing that Jason pointed out that's very true is that America seems to not have problems with allowing the unpopularly elected presidents make all of these fascist moves that nobody wants. So these Republican presidents who were not elected with the popular vote, because we have this bizarre thing called the Electoral College, they're not doing what the people want. 70% of the population did not want Roe overturned. And if we do manage to regroup, reunite, and get the working class back from the clutches of the MAGA cult, we might be able to hold the line and see our way out of this and get to some major structural reforms. But it is going to require people coming together and not continually being shocked and caught on their back foot and fighting with other, people who are pro-democracy. That's not going to fly.
No, it's not going to fly. And I'll just say it again. It's easier for people to think about this stuff if they understand how it works, what the source is. So it's not a big fucking mystery, right? The problem with saying, hey, make me a building, and you give somebody a sandbox, right, is, well, you didn't exactly give me the right tools now, did you? Right? You give them some blocks. You give them, the building blocks to construct, an understanding or a building, and you have a far better chance of success, right? And so, in my, hopeful, hopium libtard world, we figure out together that, hey, we're getting fucking psyoped by a bunch of traitors and the goddamn Russians, and we need to stop doing that to our citizens right now.
70 years ago, I was looking through some old democracy films and stuff like that. 70 years ago, we knew it. So I don't know. I made a remix. Here it is.
Oh.
They say, get the government out of education, health, housing, and other progressive programs. The public schools, they cry, are breeding grounds for communism. Their program for education: censor textbooks, gag educators, stifle dissent, thought control. They say, get the government out of education, health, housing, and other progressive programs. The public schools, they cry, are breeding grounds for communism. Their program for education: censor textbooks, gag educators, stifle dissent, thought control. Thought control. The extremists teach hate and distrust of the government and attack Washington as if it were a foreign power, an enemy to be defeated, rather than an instrument for the welfare of all of us. If successful register and vote campaigns were necessary in the past, they are indispensable today. If an alert, informed electorate was desirable in the past, it is a burning need today. And the survival of democracy is at stake. The survival of democracy. The survival of democracy is at stake. The survival of democracy is at stake.
Remix.
Damn, you did that?
Yeah.
That's fucking great. That was really good, man.
We need some more of that shit. That's all I'm saying. I mean, there are more talented people than me out there. I'm one guy with a computer
That's
fucking
pretty good,
around.
man. I was like, damn, you've been learning how to do the editing over here. Look at you. That shit is freaky, man. It's freaky. It's nothing at all has changed. Nothing changes. It doesn't change.
It's the
Not
same
only doesn't
story,
it change,
and we're not calling it out.
yeah.
I don't understand why.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about the fifth column, a lot because I think it's a useful metaphor, and in World War II they were talking about it. They were like, "Yo, there's a bunch of fucking people in here who've been listening to this asshole overseas, and it's we gotta focus up and pay attention to what." And they pointed it out in a World War II poster. It was sabotage and bigotry and foreign propaganda. World War II, fifth column. That's what we have now. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed since war began. And it's about deception. It's about getting a population to do something against their own self-interest, because that's how you steal their money. That's how you take their shit.
That is what we're talking about right now.
Well done. Look at you producing on the flop.
Does Heidi know she's muted?
I don't think so. I don't think Heidi knows.
Am I muted? I was watching your video, just longingly remembering the days when I used to be able to smoke weed, because I was like, that would be so good.
It was, Heidi. I'm sorry to tell you, but it was
I believe you guys. No, what I was saying was, nothing new under the sun. That great quote from Michael Weiss when we had him on, when he's like, nothing new under the sun, guys. It's like, for me, that's been very, very helpful. Again, going back to not being shocked, not being surprised, understanding techniques, nothing new under the sun. So much of what we do here on the show is expose things that the Stasi was doing decades ago that they learned from the KGB. And one of the great things about reclaiming the working class as a theme from Jason is simply that if we can get the message to them that they're being manipulated by billionaires that just want to steal all their shit and leave them destitute, maybe they'd rethink being pro-MAGA. I don't know if we have that clip from Jason. At one point, he described. Okay.
So I saw an interview with a top UFC fighter who was like, I represent the Trump guy. I'm the working class white Trump supporter. The social identity that he has created among the white working class, it's literally your identification as a tough guy, white working class person is now a Trump supporter. So that is really difficult in that situation because it is beyond rationality. Right. It means that it's about humiliating the liberal elites, getting women back in their place, but it's about social identity. You're a wimp unless you're a Trump supporter. And so somehow we have to convey the message that the actual cowards and wimps are the ones who line up behind this billionaire wannabe fascist dictator.
You used to be a billionaire if he ever was.
Yeah, fake rich guy, money launderer.
But I mean, even for a billionaire, 600 mil will put a fucking dent in that shit.
Yeah. So I know it used to be that the Russians just had to bail them out for like 50 million here and 25 million there. And it's like,
Yeah.
now they're in the
I'll
middle
buy
of a
your house
war.
for $100 million.
Billionaire bailout inflation.
Yeah.
So Jason has a new book coming out that you can pre-order. It's called Erasing History: How Fascists Rewrite the Past to Control the Future. Again, I think that information like this can be techniques, messaging techniques that we use as we try to reclaim that working class. And what a great description he just gave about, people saying, "Oh, I'm the, I'm that, Trump supporter. I'm the white, working class guy." And it's like, nah, man, you've been lied to. You're in a cult,
Well,
or you're on the payroll,
the title of that book is really, really important, right? I mean, because if you think about that, and you think about what we're seeing right now, what's happened to your average Trump supporter? They have erased history for those people. They have created a different set of facts about the real world, for those people by, in many ways using, the hatred that we were talking about, right? Like I recently wrote, if you want to understand psyops, you just have to realize that some large percentage of the American population is willing to vote for a broke rapist, 91-time felony indicted fucking, like, dude who cannot, I swear to God, if you asked him what comes after person man, he could not fucking tell you right now. I'm not even joking. Like,
no, I understand.
it's a bad scene, man. Like, dude doesn't have anything. And, so if you can see that and still think to yourself, oh, I'm going to vote for that. It's more than you're in a cult. You've suffered serious psychological damage, right?
Yeah.
You have
Yes.
found yourself in a place where reality does not comport with any of the facts. And once you do that, right? Once you make it not just acceptable, but required that you vote for a fucking gold shoe salesman who can only find Russians to sell his shoes to, by the way, if you didn't know. You're in a bad fucking way. And I think that to me that is the greatest argument for, we haven't collectively figured this out yet, because people still look at these polls and they're like, "Oh, don't worry about the polls, it's not a big deal, whatever." If 10% of the people in America want to vote for that, 10% of America is in a cult. If 40% of America wants to vote for that, 4 times as many people as that are the fucking enormous ass cult, right? And as these assholes keep trying to tell us, it only takes 3% to have a revolution, which they tell us over and over and over again, because they're programming this shit into people's heads.
Yeah.
And we've got a fifth column that is, 30, 40% of the country. That's enough. That'll fucking do it if they are able to activate it. And that's what I'm worried is happening right now.
I think the thing that is a tangible worry and all of that, and I do think that your point about brain damage being involved is actually something really to look at. I don't think that's hyperbole at all. And of course, we know from Rich that they have made it such a evil versus, Trump being good, that is also part of how this whole thing works. But one thing I want people to know about, it's just very practical, is that we can do a lot of things, but I can tell you exactly what the CNP money is doing right now, the Council for National Policy money and all their umbrella groups. They're focusing on 6 states. They're focusing their energy on 6 states. We have this fucked up electoral college. So they are going to the swing states. You guys probably know what the 6 states are, where Biden may have only won by 10,000 votes in one state. Collectively, he won by 44,000 votes when we talk about the electoral college, not the popular vote. So they are cynically going to swing states to try to suppress the vote and use all the same tactics that were used back in 2016 and other years. And so we can do a lot of different things in LA, New York, on the coast, but we better be doing the same shit. We better be hyper focused on swing states and getting out the vote and grassroots mobilizing and organizing, because that's what the people that Jason Stanley said are trying to completely destroy the United States and international power are doing. So we need to focus on that. Just planting that seed.
The only yes, you're right. The only thing is we have to do it. What we can't do is think that our old tactics are going to work. Our old standard, let's stand outside the grocery store and get, sure.
We do that too. We do that too.
Basic blocking and tackling needs to happen. But that basic blocking and tackling has been, fully mapped out and compromised because we've done jack shit about any of the people who did it the last 2 times.
Right.
And they're just better at it now, and so, what they've learned is, they're not going to do jack fucking shit. So we're going to hack all of these systems, every single possible link on the chain we're going to be attacking, so I think it's important that at least some segment of the population who's maybe a little bit more activist, be thinking about, different ways to counteract these movements, counteract these disinformation, storms, with some activism, well designed for the purpose. Let's put it that way, as opposed to trying to, I don't want to fight a fire with.
I have some good news on that front, actually. President Joe Biden executive order on preventing access to Americans' bulk sensitive personal data.
Okay, that's good.
That's good.
That helps the targeting part.
Yes, that does help the targeting part, because once the data that they have on people goes stale, more people need to get the hell off of social media, I guess, basically.
Well, but that's not realistic. That's not realistic, and they shouldn't have to.
I have ideas how to fix
go
that.
where all the other people are and hang out and not feel like they're going to be assaulted by fucking weapons of mental destruction. Like it is not outside of our control or our power, within the Constitution, within all the rules that we currently have, to take care of this fucking problem.
Yeah, right.
It's not. The problem that we have right now is we have people who don't get it.
Yeah.
To include Merrick fucking Garland. At best, he doesn't get it. I'm starting to worry if it's worse than that with him, that he's not just a feckless, mumbling dipshit, pardon me, but that, he's for some goddamn reason actively blocking it, because right now every single thing that they have done is fucked up, and they placed all of their chips on one dude who had little to do with it, who was just like, Flynn was like, do a tweet about a wild protest, and he was like, okay, Scavino, here's my phone. And Scavino's like, wild protest. Donald Trump is not the guy who fucking planned it. He's not the guy who had all the contacts with the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys and QAnon. He's not the guy who knew how to control the digital soldiers. He didn't do any of this fucking shit. He did not train the people who did this. He did not psyop them. He is not a fucking, he is incapable of those things. Yes, did he go along with it? Does his fat fucking orange ass need to be in prison for the rest of his natural life? You fucking betcha. But putting him in prison is not going to prevent anything, because the people who handle him, who are running this entire fucking show, are still free to do it for the third fucking time.
So I just want to remind everybody of what our friend Wes Clark Jr. said. It's absolutely insane. We allow hostile dictatorships direct access to our citizens. We just do. And, we've seen all the predictions that we've said about Twitter come true under Musk. And I'm glad to see executive orders, but we also need a lot of help when it comes to, say, lawfare. Jason Stanley wrote an important article a few years ago for The Guardian about how we are now entering fascism's legal phase. And we asked him about that today, and we told him about Mike Flynn suing you. And we asked him why he would, and he said to send a message. That's why he sued Jim Stewartson, to send a message. And Jim has talked a lot about this. That message puts that chill factor out there in other, corporate media, which actually has the ability to fight back if they had any, trying to think of cojones. I don't know what to say. Yeah, I was trying to think of a better way to say it. But
no balls.
But it was to send a message. But it's like we're sending our messages too, and we're actually making a difference. I know we are collectively with our work, so we're just going to keep doing it. But it is it's interesting how everything Jason has said has come true, and it's worth taking time to listen to our full interview, because there's so much more there. I don't know if we have anything else from him. I don't mind if we go a little bit long, but I'd certainly like to get through our Jason clips.
Our democracy isn't perfect. We must admit that the spoils go too often to the wealthiest among us, who are themselves the ones who are undermining democracy. And we have to reclaim the working class by pointing out that the policies that they're backing, it will result in many of the people they don't like being humiliated, harmed. But it's the billionaire class behind this, and
Yes.
It's cultural elites being targeted, like Yale professors, and maybe we certainly deserve some of that. And but behind them are the business elite. Behind these attacks are the business elite, and the working class to treat Elon Musk as a hero of the working class. That hypocrisy must be uncovered and explained. Like, why is someone with hundreds of billions of dollars your representative?
Anytime he talks about billionaires, all I can think of.
Oh, hi, thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
Every single time.
Jim.
Because he's one of the big ones behind it, man. We all know it.
He said something about Musk, and I was going to say something about Musk, and then you threw Teal in there. No,
that's okay. That's okay.
Teal and Musk are like this.
And I don't remember what I was going to say.
Take it back.
That's my fault.
Take it back. Take it back. He was talking about he was talking about the Musk being a hero of the working class,
Yeah. No, Elon Musk said on whatever the fuck you call it today, that I'm gonna die without being able to say, I never had any therapy.
Maybe he should get
Like,
some. Maybe
it
he should
was
get
it was
some.
it was such a layup. I was like, are you trying to get dunked on right now?
Yeah.
Are you like, and he kind of was. And that's sort of what I'm driving at, is
Yeah.
he wants to drive this division. He wants to drive this wedge, because exactly as Jason said, like, we're easier to handle when we're poor and desperate and stupid, right? And what are all these people, to include Vladimir Putin, Elon Musk, and Mike Flynn? What are they telling people to do? Have more white babies. Have more white babies. You need more white babies because we're getting replaced, right? He says it over and over again. So the way he fills in this gap of $250 billion between him and all the fucking morons that follow him around, right, is that he appeals to this hatred, this, what is that noise? You know,
It's my plane going overhead.
appeals to is the hatred of, the chuds who really wanted Tesla but can't afford one, right? So they buy some Bitcoin instead, and they feel like they're super part of the internet age or some shit like that, and they end up getting pulled into. I mean, Musk has a enormous neo-Nazi cult, right? Let's be straight up. Now, it's not quite as defined, right? As some of these other guys, but some of his most ardent fans are the most ardent Nazis on the planet. They fucking love him, right?
Wow.
And that's how he does it. Just like Jason said, he's got a coalition of people who like him. And that coalition are racists, anti-Semites, like white incels, right? He's constantly, downplaying women. He did a whole thing on fucking Amber Heard and that whole fucking nightmare, right? Like, so he is absolutely doing this classic fascist dictator thing. Fascist meaning the companies, the corporations, the become people, right? The corporation is now a person, and these fuckers are taking it to the ultimate extent, which is not only are corporations people, but all the people are now part of the corporation, right? There is no escape. You must be part of it, which is why, we're going to have one religion now, right? We're going to have Christianity, but it's not Christianity. It's an enormous global grift that is designed to separate you from your resources.
Well, I do want to say Jason said that one alarming thing he learned from his 13-year-old is that a lot of his 13-year-old's friends are into Andrew Tate. So I think that this is, related to all of this. And I bring that up because Jason basically let us know that women have to do this work. He said that we have to broadcast the stakes of the election. A politically powerful message is the super harsh train that's coming down the tracks toward women's rights. And that's what the Democratic Party needs to fight. And he said women have to get out there. He basically said that the Democratic Party has to be very clear that the Republican Party is returning to patriarchy as a mainstay. They are basically using the controlling of women to gather their base. So women, I'm telling you, pro-democracy women out there, I'm glad that I have Hi-Fi and Jim fighting this with me, but I know damn well that it's going to have to be women who understand this train that's coming down the tracks trying to take our rights away. That's what's up. Yes, sci-fi.
Sharon in chat brings up a good time, a very good point. I'll be damned if I let my son get into Andrew Tate. Parenting fail. That is correct.
Well,
And that goes
yeah.
for any father out there, any mom out there. You see your son getting into toxic masculinity, whatever.
Yeah,
Shoot your own gun videos, crap like that.
Know what they're doing
Well,
with that door shut. I mean, you know, I raised a perfectly decent young man and a beautiful daughter, and I paid attention to what they do, and you know.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, like, most people don't know what an Andrew Tate is, right? And any kid, and I know this for a fact, can go around and go, "Oh, he's just a UFC fighter. I like UFC. He, you know, he's just an influencer or whatever, right?" Because he's been fucking normalized. When this is a guy who is accused of rape, of running in the words of the government, Romanian government, running a criminal gang was the term. Not to mention human trafficking, right? So, if you want to talk about like, okay, how do we get to hypocrisy, right? When all these fucking people love them some Andrew Tate. Elon Musk loves Andrew Tate. Had him on his little to take that motherfucker. Thank you. Had him on his space. He's a perfectly acceptable person in all of these spaces, which rail about all the Democrat pedophiles when these are the guys that are actually trafficking human beings, and being charged with it. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter, right? There was an amazing. I'm going to mention one thing. I'll shut up. Was it Seth Meyers, or maybe it was Jimmy?
Yes, you're right, Seth Meyers.
Seth Meyers, where they asked people, "Can you believe Joe Biden said that the revolutionary airports, came under attack? Can you believe that?" They're like, "Oh, he's demented. He's demented. Biden, right?" And they fucking say, "Oh, shit. I'm so sorry. Let me ask this again. I got my cue card mixed up, And they're like, "So Donald Trump said to her Revolutionary War airports. What do you think about that?" "Oh, everybody gets jumbled words up sometimes. I'm sure, and just went boop, right past it. And it didn't even that. But the thing is, they didn't seem to have a single bit of self-realization, shame, guilt for having just lied their fucking full face off, because to them they didn't lie. And that's the magic of psyops and propaganda and brainwashing, right? Is you can make lies come out of someone's mouth. They can make lies up for you and not even know it. Right?
Yeah.
These people weren't like trying to lie to TV. They believed one thing with the same set of facts, or they believe two different things with the same set of facts.
There's
get people to get.
There's an account on Twitter that continually tags everything I do with these words. And I was like, don't know who you are, but you appear to be quite brilliant. And it's always the same thing. GOP, Russian pedophile mafia, global organized crime, blackmail bribes, Trump Nazi terrorists, traitors with 2 S's, mobster media brainwashing. I'm like,
no lies detected.
No lies detected.
Yeah,
That's
it's a mouthful, though.
It is a mouthful, but it's like, all the things that they project onto the Democratic parties, there's actually empirical evidence that these are the things that they actually are. But they can't tell people that, and they can't sell people on that. So they got to make up all this conspiratorial shite. But that's why we do this podcast, to bust through all that and to bring truth for those who still care to hear about it. We've got 1 minute left, and we interviewed a two-time Navalny campaigner last week, and I believe that Alexei's funeral is tomorrow. And if we have a soundbite from him, I'd like to go out on that, please. This is our friend Dimitri.
If you have such good condition to be a human and express yourself in a different way, you should use your power, your ability for protect the democracy. Because Americans like to tell, I like democracy so much. I don't want to give away to someone. Never. Okay. It means you should take an action on your own understanding and educate yourself too, of course. But be kind to others too, because Navalny was always